The dream of many indie authors is to make a connection with a readership that sticks. Readers lining up at conventions and book signings, cosplaying one of your characters, just a few benefits to the author. How does the indie author, often working unsupported, foster a real, tangible readership? How do positive vibes and being a good storyteller contribute to the building of a community? On today's show, our panel will discuss these topics. In media res, C.L. Cannon will bring you books you may like if you are a fan of The Adventures of Amina al-Sirafi by Shannon Chakraborty. In our Go Indie Minute, we give you the upcoming shows on the Go Indie Network and run down this week's March of the Writers. And at the end, we play another fun game in our Epilogue. So hit us with those positive waves and prepare to be converted into the cult of your favorite indie author. It's time for another episode of This Week in Indies with your host, SM Hillman. Good Sunday, everyone. I'm SM Hillman. I'm your host for This Week in Indies for March 23rd, 2025. Today we're going to talk about building a readership with positive vibes and good storytelling. Before we get too deep into that, however, let's go ahead and meet the people you came to see, our panelists for today. And we'll start with A.L. Mengel.
Good day, everyone. I am A.L. Mengel. I am the author of 13 books, 11 of which are novels. One, Mona Lisa Becoming a Ghost, which won the supernatural fiction category at the International Book Awards and won the gold medal. I am also a vlogger on YouTube and Facebook. I have several vlogs, one of which is #TheEraOf, which is a introspective journey through the mind of an artist and how life can affect our creative works. Also, the vlog series #Haunted, which kind of woke up my my YouTube channel, which is called it's called Haunted, and it is a ghost kind of story vlog, paranormal. And then, of course, #March of the Writers, which is something that I've been doing with JD since 2021. Of course, JD is the mastermind behind March of the Writers. He creates all of the prompts, and I latched onto it again in 2021. And I went through the first year, I went through them very literally. I took all the prompts and I put them together as like a video vlog. And then in 2023, I started introducing what I like to call the March of the Writers journey. And with that, I started examining the questions that we all share as human beings. So it's not just things that my writing explores, but it's questions that we have like, who am I? Why am I here? You know, where am I going and what happens next? So that was something that created this journey throughout the March of the Writers vlog series and worked in tandem with JD's prompts. And I started crafting the vlog journey to, bring the viewer into a better place. And then also in the most recent March of the Writers that is currently going on, and then also my vlog series, which is finished, ponders the existence of God. So it's like it's these questions that human beings share, and so it's a great connection tool. And then I've been super busy at shows and cons and everything. Like this is what I was actually doing yesterday, which is still going on today, which is really cool. It's Geek Culture Con. It's right at the entrance to Universal Studios. It's at the DoubleTree there. I'm there with a great collectibles company called Exo Steel. They've taught me a lot about connecting with people in terms of, storytelling and cosplay and finding ways to, bring my stories and my books into the general population. And they are actually, they sell like Funko Pops and anime statues and all kinds of things, plus my books as well, and art. And actually, like, they're doing posters of all my, like, here's one of my, this is the crowd pleaser. Signed versions of my posters are being given away for free with some purchases and everything. And so it's really helped me connect with a lot of people where I didn't really think that I would find readers necessarily, but they're everywhere. There's like so many places to where readers are. So thank you for having me on the show. This is the first time that I've been on This Week in Indies, and I'm glad to be here.
Thank you much. Thank you for being with us.
My pleasure.
And next up is Juliette Rose.
Hey everyone, I am Juliette Rose. I'm a cross-genre author. I have currently 12 books out. I'm working on my 13th. I'm also a publisher. I was named Golden Now's Publisher of the Year last year, which was super awesome. I'm in numerous anthologies and magazines as well. And and you can find me at authorjulierose.com. Thanks.
Are you superstitious about book 13, or is it going to be good?
No, it's horror books that actually worked. Yeah, because I made sure it kind of fell that way. I mean, I write a lot of different things, so horror is something that kind of comes back up, and it just happened to pop in my head, and I thought, how awesome is that it's number 13 as well. So
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us. And Deborah Parmalee. Hello, Deborah.
Hi, everybody. Whoops. There we go. I'm author Deborah Parmalee. I'm a multi-genre author, and I am a Gemini, so I do many things. One thing, I live full-time in a motorhome with my husband, and so I have a little bit of a unique author lifestyle. I also travel a lot, used to sell travel, and I have a travel blog, and I have a YouTube channel that has travel things, and so it's kind of all interconnected. I'm writing articles now for Fresh Fiction about living in this motorhome and being an author and traveling, and I've also started some nonfiction about our experiences in the motorhome. So that's one section. And then I'm most known for writing suspense, romantic suspense. And I've also written historical romance, contemporary romance, urban fantasy. They're now calling romantasy, dystopian romance. So like a typical Gemini, I like to do many things. I'm going to just show a couple covers real quick because I'm going to mention this during our chat. So Defensive Instructor. It's in the Brotherhood Protector series, and it's the first book I set within. This was a Kindle world at one point in another author's world. I made a world inside her world, and it's where women go who have been attacked or abused, and they learn self-defense. So that's why Defensive Instructor. So there's always action and adventure in all my books. And then the other one that I'll mention later is Blind Trust. This one is the receptionist at the center, and it's her story with her hero. These are all ex-military heroes. So one thing I'll add on, I'm doing the March of the Writers also, and mine has been different this year because I decided to do my videos. Don't worry about the hair. Don't worry about makeup, what shirt you have on, whatever, just, brush your teeth, comb your hair, good to go. And give real life slices of this is what it's really like living in here, living my life. And I'll add on to that in the summer of 2023, I had a blood clot in my brain and became disabled. The clot's gone now, thankfully, but it gives me a different lens to view the world with. So all of my videos for March of the Writers are now from that lens. And it's changing my writing also. I will be writing about certain subjects now that I wouldn't have been able to before. So you're kind of catching me in a midpoint where I'm getting ready to write those things, but have not yet. And you can find me at deborahparmley.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And we're grateful that you're feeling better, obviously.
Thank you.
So last but not least, and he's probably going to give me some shit about it.
Never.
Jim Nettles.
Jim Nettles. I write a whole bunch of stuff. Fiction. I've written science fiction, fantasy, urban fantasy, a bit of horror, a bit of contemporary. Also do a lot of nonfiction, myth, mythology, business, entrepreneurship, tech, a whole bunch of other stuff as well. So, there's a little bit there of if somebody will pay me to write it, I will. And then the stuff that keeps me insane is the stuff that I usually put out as myself because nobody's bought it. But usually those do pretty well as well. I also, one of the creators of Continual, which is, as you can see behind me, we run a bunch of stuff online for that. I do a lot of work in tech consulting and all sorts of other spaces as well. Partner in a game company, partner in a number of publishing companies. So yeah, just sort of out causing a bunch of mayhem. And thanks, Joe, for fixing where we're at. I still haven't gotten down the notion of writing romance.
Yeah, thank you for being here with us today. I appreciate it. And yes, thank you, Joe, for fixing the layout for me. I'm not sure why, but you guys know I'm the worst when it comes to the production side. So we have, before we get into questions, we have some folks with us today. AF Stewart is always here. Thank you, AF. Miss Alicia Full, hello. Good to see you again. Dennis, thank you for being here with us. Enthralled at Dusk, hello. And it's A.L. Mengel.
It's me. Usually I'm in the chat. Usually I'm in the chat. Today it's a little different. You get to see me.
Awesome.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for breaking the fourth wall for us. We appreciate it. Jim, we're going to start with you. And I guess sort of how do we define what a readership is? Like, is a reader a person, a particular person we're looking for? Is a readership a group of people we're looking for? How do we define that in terms of what we're looking for as authors?
So I'm going to probably be a little bit evil on this one and say it depends, because it depends on the context. Usually if we're talking about readership in terms of marketing, it's who are the people that are going to, really be the group of people that are most likely to engage with that, whether it's romance, horror, sci-fi, whatever it is. I mean, the first thing is to define how we're using it. And so when we talk about a readership, the first thing I always look at is, what's the context versus readership for, are these the people that are buying or looking at the magazine, reading it online, whatever else. It's the people that are consuming it that you're reaching with that. That's usually the way I look at it, is in that context of one of the two, of either the people that are actively reading it or the people that we know historically potentially would be in that group of people that would be interested in that. And that's the marketing side of who are we trying to reach.
We can't hear you, Sean.
Yeah,
talking to myself. Is that's something you keep in mind for Continual, or does Continual come with a built-in audience?
Well, I mean, for me, that's kind of Continual regardless as to what it is. And so looking at things for me, again, this is where you go and separate the difference between the business side of it, right? Because again, for me, this is always looking at who are my readers, who are my customers, who are my potential readers or my potential customers, and who are the people that are most likely to be interested in it for some given reason or another. And so like Continual, we do a ton of online material, just like, Go Indie does. We spread things pretty far and wide, and we have a number of different audiences depending on what we're doing there, whether it's in the fandom space versus the craft space, learning about writing or lurking, research, things like that. But, and I think that being an author is much the same way, where there is the notion of the readership that you're going to potentially bring along. Like if I'm working with a publisher or something along those lines, if I'm bringing along a readership, that's going to be the people that are already following me, already reading what I do, all of that kind of thing. So that's one form of readership for me. But the other kind is to go and say, this is what my typical client avatars, reader avatars look like. These are the people that tend to like what I do in this space. Because again, that's the other thing, is because I write kind of all over the place, my readership for one thing may not be the same readership for other things that I do. And so it's kind of breaking that down, is to identify who's following me just to see what jackassery I'm up to versus who's following me because they like different things that I do and different things that I write, different projects we have.
Gotcha. Thank you so much. AL, to you.
Yeah. Yes, I do have something to add in terms of finding your readers and everything, because one of the main principles that I adopt when I'm looking for readers is that I am my brand. Okay, so people have to buy into me before they're going to buy my books. Okay, I am the brand. My books are simply the product. And so when you're talking about finding readers and connections, they are everywhere. People, I mean, it's like literally that's the way I feel. And in my experience is, okay, they're all over the place. Your readers are in restaurants, they're at grocery stores, they're in gyms, they're in schools, they're in libraries, they are at Comic Cons, they are on the beach, they're on cruises, everywhere. So what I employ and what has really helped me get my books out there and finding those readers, because they literally, the world is a haystack and a reader is the needle. And so you're trying to find them. And so, but they're literally everywhere. You probably have people who would like to read your work right in your neighborhood. And so I keep the mindset. It's all about the mindset that I employ when I go out there. I always have my business cards in my pocket. And I was told that by people in my life, is like, you need to carry those business cards because you never know when you're going to need them. Because you could be at the grocery store buying food, and then all of a sudden you're having a conversation about some story or some character. It's like, that's just like my book. It's like, hey, you know what? It's like, check this out. I'm a writer, I'm an author, and this and that. And so it's like, I got him in my pocket right now. And it's like, it's like you never know when that serendipitous moment is going to come up to when you're going to earn yourself a reader. And so that is what I say. It's like readers are everywhere. And I say, like, am I writing my stories for a specific reader? I mean, in a way. I mean, I write supernatural thrillers, I write science fiction, and I explore deep philosophical questions that, we've been experiencing, and having for millennia as we look up to the sky and wonder what is there and what could be out there and everything. So I think about, it's like how I can get my books out there and like what type of reader I write for. And I write for human beings who may connect with my stories and the questions that I explore. And so I say, like, well, it's like genres, sure. It's like I ask people, like, oh, well, do you like this author? Do you like that author? And things like that. And I try to bring them into my A.L. Mengel world.
Gotcha. Understood. Appreciate it. Just
Sure.
I'll just show everybody. We have another panel member here at the moment. Juliet, it's what about you? How do you build your readership?
Yeah, I really look at readership as a very organic growth. I'm not a hard salesperson. I really feel like if you write a good story, your readership will follow. I think you making yourself present. I do a lot of in-person events, and again, I'm not a hard seller. I mean, I was yesterday watching people walk by, and you see them connect some way with your work because they see the covers and they see your name or whatever type of genre you write, and then they kind of gravitate over. I let them do that on their own. I don't like yell at people or try to kind of salesman them to get them to come over, because the way I look at it is, if I do that, they might buy the book feeling pressured, but then they may kind of have a bad taste in their mouth. So for me, I really try to let readership grow organically. And I was thinking what Jim said, there are really two kind of levels of readership, which is people that are already following you and are interested in your work. And if you're cross genre like I am, you can have different people interested in different work. So if I write a horror book, I might have a group of my readership that comes out and buys that book, but maybe they won't buy my social fiction. And that's okay. I'm not trying to get anybody to do something that they don't want to do. And then there's your potential readership. So the people that are interested in, say, horror, interested in a certain type of genre, those are your potentials. And so, again, I look at it as just something that should happen naturally versus being forced.
Do you find you are able to connect with people at in-person events in a way that you feel like really is building your readership?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I've been kind of doing a lot of events over these last couple of years, and a lot of it was kind of a psychological test for me to see, what's going to work. How do I interact with the public? I'm introverted. I'm not somebody that's, out there kind of screaming my own name. And so at first events were tough because it was something where I wasn't really wanting to interact as much as maybe I needed to. But it taught me how to do it in ways that I felt were really natural. So again, I observe a lot at events, and I watch people's faces and I watch them connect. And that's the point where I know I can step and say, hey, this is what I write. And so that has really helped me a lot building my readership, because people come back to me. Like once they purchase something and they enjoy it, they come back because they know at no point am I going to hard sell them.
Right. Oh, that's a great
Nice.
point to make. Deborah, what about you?
So author branding and connecting with readers, it has been an organic thing for me. And I'm wearing this t-shirt on purpose. Shimmy Mob. I don't know if you can see it. Shimmy Mob. Shimmy Mob is an international event that happens every year on International Belly Dance Day. And I used to be in a troupe and taught. And I was the founder of Shimmy Mob Memphis, which raises funds. In each city around the world, we raise funds for our local domestic abuse shelters and awareness of the shelter. So when I was in the Kindle world, I had been invited to write in another author's Kindle world. I had one book in the world, and then I thought, I have a bigger stage here. And I created the world within the world of 3 C's Ranch, where women go who've had bad things happen. And that started with that first book, Defensive Instructor. So within that book, I put things like, I've taken self-defense classes myself, and I have advisors who help me with scenes. I put things in there that a woman could read and perhaps learn something from, or perhaps might say, oh, maybe I need to get some self-defense training, or, oh, I can find my local domestic abuse shelter. And of course, in the back of the book, I have the link to Shimmy Mob, where all around the world people can find links to do that. So I was doing this to help the women that would read the book, not so I could make big sales. However, when I did that, I connected with the women, and I now have 7 books in that world in this series, and I'm writing an 8th. I have the most reviews of all my books on those, and they're widely received, and they want more and more, which is great. So I can feel good about it because I know I'm helping. I had a book that this one gave me goosebumps. The organizer of Shimmy Mob is in Canada, and she called me one day. She wanted to interview me because I had written a book and made I made the heroine a assistant to a Shimmy Mob program, so I could put that program into a book and kind of share a little bit about what that's like to put on a shimmy mob. And she got a call, and this woman had read the book, and she said, I didn't know if it was the real thing, but then I looked in the back and saw that it was, and how can I help? And she had the company with hundreds of employees, and she wanted to help. And when the organizer called me and told me this, I got goosebumps. That's connecting with readers, and that's helping. And to me, this is what it's all about. If you can put some positivity in there, a lot of times readers are looking for an escape. They might need some help and not even know they need it. And even if they don't need it, their next door neighbor might need it. So I feel really good about those books. And the irony of it all is that I didn't set out to make those bestsellers. I set out to reach my reader and help my reader. And that has made all the difference.
That's amazing. I love that. Yeah, I agree with it totally.
Yeah, that is amazing. Deborah,
Yeah.
do you think that the writing for reasons that were, say, different than commercial or personal success may have helped infuse those books with a certain something that people recognize? Or
Well, there's a lot of truths in it, and I can pull the truths in because I can't discuss things that I heard. A lot of women, I was with the Memphis group for 10 years. So, of course, during that course in time, people would talk to me, and I know a lot of stories and things. So I had a lot of things I could infuse in that are real world things. And then also, because I've taken different classes, partly for the books, partly because it's just good to know these things. I took a whole day class on situational awareness. I took a week of Krav Maga. I took a week of kickboxing. In order for me to write about this, I needed to have a better idea of what it's like to actually be in a class brand new and learning it. So then, of course, I had all these people that I could say, hey, can you read this? Not just for the training part, but the fight part, because I personally have not been in an extreme they could kill you fight. But the guys that teach this stuff and some of the ex-military guys that I go to for resources, they look over my things because I want it to be as lifelike as possible without traumatizing anybody. For me, it's always, what can you do to defend and get away? What can you do to be safer and healthier? If something really bad has happened, I refer to it, but I don't put that on the page. And in that way, I hope that I don't traumatize anyone who has been through that, because my intention is to help them move beyond it, from surviving to thriving. And it's just kind of taken on a life of its own. I think people will say right from the heart, put yourself in your story. And the best way I can explain this is to kind of show you by my example of what I've done. It's been a beautiful thing, really. It has.
awesome, excellent.
Can I follow up on that too, actually, SM?
Sure.
Do you mind? Because
Okay.
it's like, I know, like, one of the things that I've done in, the cover that's actually up here, I was like, Joe was asking me, like, which book cover to put up here. It's like, well, it surprised me, Joe. And so it's like, the interesting thing is he put this one here because I remember he had read it and everything. And so that it's interesting that he chose that particular novel, because when I was writing it, I put a lot of myself into that story, which I think really helped me connect with readers, and it's become one of my most popular books. But that story, The Mortician, opens with a funeral, which probably for a book called The Mortician, like, sounds like a cliche and everything. But the thing is that it's actually, the opening scene of that book is told from the perspective of a 3-year-old little boy at his grandmother's funeral, where they have the casket on display, and he sees her laying in the casket for the first time, and he doesn't understand death at all. And so you have that particular scene where this 3-year-old little boy goes up to the casket and he looks at his grandmother's like, she just looks like she's sleeping. I don't understand this. Like, what's going on? Why is she not waking up? Why is she not getting up and interacting with me? And, everything like that. And so he goes up on the little kneelers and the risers that are on the side of the casket. And he goes and he sees her sleeping there, with a slight smile on her face and everything like that. And he touches her cheek. He's like, he pulls his finger back. She's cold. I don't understand this. Like, what's going on? And his parents explain, it's like, well, she's gone to heaven, honey, and everything like that. And so that particular scene, I started that story, and it completely forms the journey because it's something that connects us all as human beings. It's something that we're all forced to deal with at some point in our lives, whether, it's a family member or anything like that. And there's certain, a lot of us have children who are not going to understand this part of our lives that happens. And I inserted that because I was that 3-year-old little boy. That was a memory of mine that starts the story. So that was something that helped, I think, a lot of people connect with that particular story and find readers, because that's something that we all share.
Juliet, you're up next, Juliet. What about your writing helps your readership or connects with your readership? Oh, you're muted.
All right. So I think a lot of people know that in my personal life, I'm an activist. And so a big part of what brought me back to writing, I've written all my life, was a journalist in my earlier years, and then came back later in life to writing, was that social activism. And I wanted to be able to weave real life situations into my stories. And through that, I've definitely connected to a lot of readers, especially current day readers. We're all kind of dealing with a lot of things in our lives and in our country, and I think writing about those things in a fiction way allows people to touch on it without having to just be immersed in it, and that's definitely increased my readership as well.
Do you have your stories changed over the last few years, do you think, Eddie, in what you're writing or how you're writing them?
Well,
based on your activism?
Yeah, I came back to writing when I turned 50, which was 4 years ago. So no, because at that time we were already kind of dealing with stuff. I was really inspired. Kind of the second book that came out way after I started writing, a lot of it was inspired by the George Floyd situation. And so kind of wanting to address that generation, the younger generation, and the world they grew up in, so facing kind of like that their life really hadn't been free of a lot of the stuff that we got to grow up not having to deal with. And so not necessarily, I've kind of continued on that track. I think one of my latest books, not the most recent one, which was done, but the one before that, Expectation of Pain, I specifically wanted to deal with a dystopian world, but I used a lot of kind of reality within that to weave that story.
Gotcha. Awesome. Jim, what about you? And could you talk a little bit too about your nonfiction as well? How maybe how it's different between fiction and nonfiction, what you put into your writing, and how
Sure.
you build readership like that?
So looking at fiction, like the series I'm working on right now, it's changing. As with anything, you grow, you develop, but it's a question of what parts of yourself make it into any story. So when you look at things from a fictional standpoint, the particular series that I am working right now, that I've got a publisher that's wanting it and is interested in it. The two series I've got, one is a cozy series and the other is a sci-fi series. The sci-fi series, the first round of drafts on that were done 3-4 years ago, and right now I'm in the process of tearing it apart, reworking all of it, because I have different views on certain things at this point, and there's certain things that I just have looked at and said, okay, that's not the way I want to tell this story now. There's certain aspects that I'm like, I've pulled certain aspects out because point in time. We all know where the world was, 4 or 5 years ago at this point, and I'm like, I'm pulling out some of those influences and things that I don't want to be there, and I didn't want to be there even then, but you couldn't help it. And the same thing becomes true with nonfiction. So like fairy films, that's the book that's in here. My piece that's in there is basically the mythological influences and fairy folklore influences in film. And the piece that I wrote is about how the 84 version of Dune is fairy folklore. And so looking at that, the number of people that look at me like I'm crazy, because I kind of did that on a little bit of a bet for Josh. But there was a lot there about how the elements of our folklore, our history, influence the fiction that we see, the world we embed ourselves in, and the stories we tell ourselves, the ways we work through life and everything else. And so when I'm writing pieces that are like that are nonfiction, because this is, a semi-academic book, but when you're writing a piece like that, the people I've had that have read it, that have come back to me and talked about, I never would have looked at the Dune universe that way. I wouldn't have necessarily looked at the influence of cultural things like fairy folklore, how that influences so much of our daily lives, not only through the way we see it in entertainment and film, but how many things culturally carry along because of belief systems we have that go back generations and generations. And when I'm writing a piece like that really is about belief systems, I mean, one of the core things about much of what I write is, why do we believe what we believe? And then challenging people to test their belief systems. Because a lot of what I run into and have dealt with throughout my life, personally, professionally, everything else, is because people get attached to a belief system, and so attached to it, they can't actually see anything else. And that's one of the big pieces. And I've had a lot of people tell me that this is what comes out. When I'm writing a piece, like when I put out, Business for Writers, 80% of that's the same thing I teach in a workshop, whether you are a writer, a publisher, an attorney, a doctor, running a software company, whatever else. 20% of it, though, is dedicated really to the language of publishing and being a writer and how those kinds of things work. And the changes in language are, and because of so many friends of mine in the business, help me sculpt and change and refine that language, is why I think a lot of people in the business have found it to be a more useful asset and a more useful resource, is because it's written in the language. Our language is writers and storytellers, because fundamentally everything we do, whether it is tech writing, whether it's business proposals, whether it is telling a story, everything we do is storytelling. And if we can tell that story effectively, then everything else that we do around it is a lot more effective. And so to be able to walk up and stand and use a story to help get people to understand your perspective, your viewpoint, your message, is what we as people have always found to be the most effective way of doing it. That's the reason why thousands of years ago, everybody stood around the campfire and you told stories. And that's where your collective belief systems, your collective memories, and all of that come from, are that notion of, we're not necessarily built to memorize 8 billion levels of details and then incorporate that into ourselves. However, if I can take and tell you a story that you can resonate with and get the meaning and the feeling out of that, and you can see things that I've done and experienced, things that people I know have done and experienced, people I've interviewed, stuff I've covered in media, all those kinds of things that have gone on over the years, that connection between story and storytelling, much like what Deborah was talking about, that notion of connecting story and reality lets us realize we're not alone in the human experience. Others have gone through similar types of challenges and have been able to face them, go through them, learn from them, grow from them, survive them, whatever the case may be. And that's what I find to be true regardless, is with what am I writing? Am I able to tell the story in a way that the readership that can benefit from it will be able to get that benefit? And at the same time, much like in a meeting the other day, I said, okay, I got to turn my verbosity off. But the notion of being able to come in and tell a story that has impact, that lets people relate. They may not remember all the details, but what they can remember are, what did it make them think about? What did it make them feel? What did it make them contemplate? What did they learn and take away from the experience? Because if you're doing that in a room full of people, or you're doing that because you publish something out to a lot of different readers, no two people are going to take away exactly the same thing, no matter what you write, no matter what gets published.
Sure. True. Very true. Excellent. All right. Let's take a few. Try that again. Let's look at our comments again. We have Billy saying hello to AL. We have me breaking the fourth wall with some metal music. AL responding back. Yep. We have someone talking to my cat, whose name is Lapis. And yeah, no, I agree. This is fascinating. That was all very. Everyone's input was fantastic. It was fascinating in that regard, of how you look at your readership.
Oh, SM. Just 1 second. You just put that comment there, and that was actually something that. Can you go back to it? Okay, so I put that there because I was doing something similar in a different way and trying to unite different people and different cultures and different things. So in my project right now, The Spirit Guide, it is a supernatural thriller, and I'm trying to, one of the things that I'm doing, and this is completely different than what Jim is doing right now, but it's kind of like when he started talking about different belief systems and things like that, I started really latching onto it and everything, because in this particular situation, I'm creating a book that I'm exploring all of the world's religions and cultures. Like it sounds like an enormous project, and it is. Trust me, I've been working on it for 2 years already. But I've honed it down to like the top 5, and what I'm doing with my research is I'm trying to create bridges and find these similarities and create a story, a protagonist, okay, which I'm already like almost 60,000 words into the book. So I'm getting to a point where I need to start maybe thinking about wrapping it up and everything, because it's a crossover novel. Okay, so it marries 2 of my series together. So I have one series that's supernatural, horror-y, which is the Tales of Tartarus. Then I've got another series which is science fiction, which is the Vega Chronicles. And then I have a third series, which is called the Astral Files, which is where the Mortician is in and everything like that. And what I'm doing with the Spirit Guide is I'm marrying the supernatural with science fiction, because the science fiction that I write is very supernatural in tone. So it's like, if you like the big, blowing everything up in space and, stuff like that, like Star Wars and all kinds of things like that, you're not going to like my science fiction writing. And that's what I tell people. I'm honest. It's like, listen, it's like, when it comes to me marketing my science fiction books, I say, you know what? It's like, it depends on what you like. If you like Kubrick, if you like director like Brian De Palma, like Mission to Mars and things like that, like those deep, thoughtful type science fiction stories, then you probably like my work. But the thing is that I throw a lot of the laws of physics kind of go out the window and, things like that. If there's somebody who's like very cut and dry, like, listen, it's like, well, you have to have, A and B and this and that, right, and the laws of physics and all that stuff like that, then it's like, you're not going to like my science fiction. But, right, with the Spirit Guide, I'm bringing that all together. And so that was the whole thing, like when Jim spoken, what I, had talked about, uniting the belief systems, bringing a whole lot of people together, which is the goal of the book. So it's like I'm writing a book to specifically bring all those people together.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, and
Good.
the only thing I'd add is that because I've written things that were that notion of,
Yeah.
let me present this so that you get an idea what my view on the world is. Because I mean, we all influence that, right? It's the one thing that I tend to do, and there are times that I've been like, here's my point of view, let me steer you that way.
Mm-hmm.
But as I have gotten older, as I've gone writing further and deeper, my tendency tends to be more about, let me open this up so you are questioning your systems, not so that I'm trying to get you to go down a particular path. And that's one of those things I think that
Yes.
is to what resonates for different people. Because if you're looking to find a new way, or you're looking for something to reinforce a particular approach or a belief system,
Mm-hmm.
that's a different reader than somebody that is wanting to cause them to challenge the way they look at things. And that's, I think, when we talk about nuances of readership,
Mm-hmm.
that's one of those things that creates can be a very material difference. And you'll find people that will do both. And I think that's one of those things as to readership and defining who is my reader, who will be touched and be best influenced.
Mm-hmm.
One reader may find my stuff good for a particular point in time in their life or what they currently need. And then they may go, I need to go do this with AL because they're on a different path.
Right. Yep, absolutely. All right. So now it is time for the Indie Connection with CL Cannon.
Hey guys, CL Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another Indie Connection. And today I'd like to tell you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of Shannon Chakraborty's The Adventures of Amina, al-Sirafi. The first book I have for you is called On These Black Sands by Vanessa Rasnan. In a world of lies and betrayal, trust can be dangerous and alliances can turn deadly. Declan's years as a captain have earned him both a ruthless reputation and a slew of enemies. Add in the council which lords over the pirates and the painful past that haunts him, and he'd do anything to be free of these seas. Even search for a legendary dagger with the power to grant victory to the one who wields it. When a chance stop back home brings him to the information he needs to finally find the blade, nothing will stop him from claiming it for himself, until an irritating council heir stows away on his ship. Despite his crew's pleas, Declan can't shake his protective nature and agrees to see her safely to the next port. But when she turns out to be the key to his quest, he'll have to set aside his hatred for her and her family, or throw away his one chance at freedom. The second book I have for you is called By Sea and Sky by Anthony Bandel. With no magic, no brawn, and no pirate crew, Zala seeks to steal back the one treasure that matters to her most, her husband. To succeed, she needs a ship, and not just any ship, but the latest secret invention by the Vajai Empire, an airship. Zala will have to use her wits to overcome scoundrels and nobles alike on her journey through the clouds. But if she's smart enough, she may just have what it takes to save her husband, and go down in history as the first sky pirate. Delve into this pirate fantasy inspired by the West Indies, the Swahili coast, and Arabia, where Zala will encounter ruthless raiders, arrogant aristocrats, and imperial secrets. The third book I have for you is called Pirate Katie Dunn. Animeta is used to going on missions as an ambassador, or the leader of the elite women's warriors, or Scorval, but this one will cause her to question everything. Pirates and taken to Under, she is told that the Lord of Scorval is using Score stones to manipulate people across the kingdoms, especially the royals. The pirates claim they want to stop him, how the Lord is making manipulative Score, and who his heir is. Animeta must choose whether to help the pirates or to stay loyal to the Lord of Scorval. Either way, she cannot let the pirates discover her secret. What would they do if they found out she is the heir? And the last book I have for you is called The Thunder Heist by Jed Hearn. A relentless thief, a magical device, and a heist to change everything. Kef Cutmark is the greatest pirate in the Twisted Seas. Just ask her. She's more than happy to talk about her exploits. She's a woman of sharp wit and an even sharper sword. She's killed sea monsters, toppled kings, stolen priceless artifacts, and made a hefty sum of gold along the way. But her charming, roguish exterior hides a dark past. As a child, she was a slave in Zorith, a tangled jungle of 1,000 boats, all lashed together to make a floating city ship. After a life spent running from her past, she's had enough. Now it's time for revenge. Zorth is powered by a magical device that draws energy from lightning. Mysterious, unique, and locked in an unbreachable tower, it's the envy of Zorth's rivals. And Kef? She's here to steal it. To do that, she'll need a water-breathing mutant, a grumpy architect, and a deaf alchemist. If Kef can take the device, it will cripple Zorth and serve out justice for what the city did to her. But with all the odds stacked against Kef, failure looks more likely, and if she fails, she'll never find peace again. Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on the Indie Connection. Bye.
Excellent. Thank you, CL, for another great Indie Connection. All right, so last question for everybody as we're starting to wrap up. And we'll throw this out to anyone. So a lot of times we always sort of have a question for new writers, new creatives. If you had one piece of advice for building readership to someone, what would it be?
Write a good story.
Is it really just that simple, you think, to write a good story?
I mean, I believe that. I think that, we get really caught up with all these different marketing tips and kind of pressures, but I think, it may be slow. And I think the problem is a lot of people want this immediate kind of like readership. But I think that, building a true readership, a good readership is write a good story, put something good of worth out there, put yourself out there, like, do events. But I do think that's it. I see, I'm an observer and I see people do all kinds of different things at events. And the ones that do well are the ones that are really genuinely connecting with the readers and have a good story so that in the end, they're not having to kind of force feed something down someone's throat.
Right. Gotcha. Awesome.
I would say write a true story. And by that, I mean, this story person could be a neighbor next door. So lifelike that you can see it happening and bring that to the page so that the reader can connect with a real story person and give them some hope and some positivity that they can connect with, so that if someone out there reading it has the same situation, they don't feel so alone. And then you create an automatic connection which can help them.
Right. So, so you're writing a good story, but you're also creating characters that are grounded in real human experiences, maybe.
Yes, that's it.
Awesome. Jim Mariel?
Sure. Yeah, I'll contribute. But
well, I was going to say that there's kind of a 2-in-1 comment I'd make, and that is the obvious of being a good human being, right? We all have our challenges. We all have the good, the bad, the ugly that we do, but fundamentally be that good human being and push that into your work. And then the other thing is when you're working on stuff like this, and when you find those things that make you uncomfortable, or when you find those things that you're not necessarily wanting to face, that's probably the stuff that needs to be there more than anything else, not only for you, but also for your readers.
So those real life experiences, that grounded character, the tougher the situation maybe is the more important that it needs to come into your work then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, gotcha. Awesome.
yeah.
Ayo?
Yes, I'm going to build on just what he said. When I was a new writer and a new vlogger, there were a lot of hurdles that I had to overcome as a creative. And it took me a while to get to that point in my writing career where I put myself in my story. There were so many times in the beginning when I was just processing what I had absorbed throughout my life, and they became good stories. But when my stories started becoming personal, when I started bringing my own personal experience in there, those are considered some of my best work, my best novels, by the readers who've been reading them and who have talked to me about them. It's the same with the videos. You know, probably about 10 years ago, I was, I'd already grown my Facebook page to, to where it was at that time. And I was trying to think like, well, how can I turn these followers into sales? And I was like, okay, well, I need to find a way to connect. And so I went there and I said, okay, well, what do these people like? And so I'm trying to figure out, first of all, I needed to find out where they were from. So I had to learn all of my markets. So I know I can tell you my top 5 markets off the top of my head, because I always, I think anyone who's trying to put themselves out there from a business perspective or a creative perspective, author, blogger, whatever, you need to know your top markets all the time, because you need to find out, it's like, okay, well, this next thing that I'm looking to send out to the world may connect with one and it may not connect with another. And so you have to strategically target your marketing when you come for, as an author, blogger, or writer, or whatever. But so anyway, I had grown my Facebook page 10 years ago, 2015, 2016, around that time frame. I said, well, what do they like? Like, how can I connect with all these people? Like, all these people are following my page. It was like 7,000 people at that time. I was like, all right, well, that's a nice amount of book sales. So it's like, what can I do? And so I started doing videos, short videos. Okay, this is before TikTok. This is before Instagram Reels and everything like that. I started releasing like 2-minute videos just on whatever about my writing process or the creative process, or, people love to be part of the process, at least the people who followed me at that time. And so, and it was a personal hurdle that I had to get over as well, because I don't know how other authors are, especially newer writers and everything. I always thought that my voice sounded weird when it was recorded. I don't know if anybody else felt the same way, but I remember when I was younger, I was like, God, I sound weird. Like, oh, that's so weird, And so it's like, I had to do that. I had to get over that hurdle. And so I took all those short videos and I just started releasing them. And it taught me something. It taught me that the people on my page, they like to see me on video. They like to hear me talk. And I was like, okay. So I got a little confidence in everything. And that's when I started. A couple years later, I developed the Era Of series. The Era Of series, which I spoke about in the beginning of the show, was all about bringing myself out there and says, okay, well, a lot can happen in the era of creating a project.
Right.
And so that helped a lot. And so, and that's just kind of like where everything grew from there. And so I, but yeah, so I mean, it's like, it's really definitely been a journey.
Sounds like it. I want to thank everybody, our panelists, for being here. I want to thank our viewers for being here as well. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up here in a few seconds, or a few minutes, I should say. But let's go ahead and take a look at a couple things that are going on Go Indie this week. Yay! All right. So this week in Go Indie Now, on Monday, season 5 finale of 21 Grams. Joe welcomes Ben Meeks at 7 p.m. That's tomorrow. Tuesday, Double Dose of Juliet, first at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, spotlight on her publishing company, Above the Rain Collective. And then a new live episode of First Time for Everything, as Juliet welcomes Dan Jolly. It sounds like it's going to be a good time, Juliet. Wednesday at 8 p.m., Joe and Brian Tam are saving a seat with one new indie movies to check out. And Saturday Spotlight at 6 p.m. on International Women's Month with interview with 3 women in the indie film industry. That should be a good time and really informative, I'm sure. All right. And then, of course, we have March of the Writers for this week. We'll briefly go over those. The 23rd, that's today, Bookmark Palooza. So flex your swag and show up your swag. 24, Writer Beware. You want to all keep an eye out for scammers who are trying to scam you as a writer. Yep, definitely keep an eye out for that. The 5th, go beyond your comfort zone. On the 26th, Writer Fuel Part 2, Influences. These are things that influence you and keep you going. On the 27th, Your Secret Identity. That's for folks writing with us, or if you're some people writing with more than one pseudonym. 28th, another picks. We all have our favorites. Share your favorite music, movies, etc., video games, books, or anything. Writer's Fuel on the 29th, Writer's Fuel Part 3, which is reward time. What do you do to reward yourself? Me, I get an extra hour of sleep so I can go back to doing more work. On the 30th, your wish list. There's always, if you're speaking our wishes out loud for things that we want, but what are some of the things that you wish for? And finally, on the 31st, last day of March of the Writers, to be continued. What's on the horizon for you as an author and a creative? So that's been our Go Indie Minute, and that has been our Writers March of the Writers. Are we ready for our epilogue? Woohoo!
I don't know. I don't know. I guess we'll see.
So, oh no, we've lost Jim. We lost Jim.
No, I'm here.
No, we lost
Juliet. Oh, we lost Juliet.
Yes.
Oh,
Everybody lifted and shifted a spot, so now we're playing musical chairs.
yeah,
Right.
it's game time.
I seem to be static. It's like I'm the type of person who never gets up when the music even starts or stops. I just stay there.
So we'll grab our last couple comments. Have a great day. Thank you, Dennis. You have a great day.
Oh, that was me. That was me. Yeah.
The secret identity.
I did it differently. I remember that back in 2021 for March of the Writers, I was like, oh, secret identity. This is really cool. It's like not everybody knew back during those days that I was a bartender. So like, oh, that's really cool. So it's like during that thing with that particular vlog and everything, I actually worked. It was really cool because I worked with a local bar who was there, and I was able to incorporate video shots of the bartender like mixing a drink, because I remember it was the same year, and it because I've been doing March of the Writers now since 2021, and it was the same year that where JD had also incorporated like "Who Are You" as a cocktail, which I thought was a really cool, interesting prompt. And so I was like, oh, well, of course, for me, I'm going to be an old fashioned, because I'm old fashioned. Like when I take notes and everything for my books, it's in like an old spiral notebook and, blue ruled and everything like that. It's like, because that's what I do. I don't use any of those new programs. I'm just very old fashioned when I do my writing, and I print out the manuscript and I take handwritten notes in it, because that's what I do. And so old-fashioned seemed appropriate. And so I had the bartender making an old-fashioned on the video, and I was doing all the shots and stuff for March of the Writers that year. So that was really cool. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, secret identity. It's like I used to be a bartender. It's like, oh, I love that. It's like nostalgia.
Yeah. Fantastic. All right. Here is it's epilogue time. Yeah. Here we go. So as this works, I've got a series of questions, and then you just go ahead and answer them. And whoever is the last one standing gets to say, it's always time to go indie now when I cue you at the end. First question. Which of these characters appeared in a film? Which of these characters did not appear in a TV show and a film? Put it this way. Which of these characters only appeared in a film, not in a TV show for their particular franchise?
Oh my. Oh my.
Oh, I'm screwed.
Han Solo, Cassian Andor, Jack O'Neill, or Agent Carter?
I have no idea. Did they ever make a Star Wars series?
I'm
They
going to say
made several
Han
Star Wars
Solo.
series. Okay.
Yeah, like a TV series?
Yeah, they made several Star Wars TV series.
Well, I don't know. I gotta bow out from this one because
Okay, Deborah?
I didn't know there was a series. I would have said Han Solo. Now I don't know what to say.
I know that's what I was thinking too. I was like,
Oh
okay.
gosh. I don't know. I think I'm going to pass now. Sorry.
Okay. So I'll give that all to you. Yes, it is. Han Solo has not appeared in a TV series. He
Oh.
only appeared in a film.
Oh,
we
look at that.
shouldn't have second guessed ourselves. Okay.
No, that's all right. That's all right.
Exactly.
You were all leaning towards that way. So we'll go with the second question. Okay. Which of these weapons is not a sword? They are fictional weapons. Well, one of them. Most of them are fictional weapons. Stormbringer, Dragon Slayer, Sting, or Excalibur?
What about the Spear of Destiny? I'm writing about the Spear of Destiny in my book
That's
right now.
That's not all the question, though. Yeah.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
So, Jim, which of these is not a sword?
Stormbringer.
Ao?
I would be completely guessing. So I'm going to go with Jim because I would be going eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Okay, so Stormbringer as well. Deborah?
Stormbringer.
Okay, no, Stormbringer is Elric's big demon sword.
Oh.
So the answer is Dragon Slayer from the movie Dragon Slayer.
That's what I was trying to remember.
I probably should have known that type of stuff, dude.
There's also
Doing all the combat.
Stormbringer that's a battle axe that.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true. All right, so since everybody bowed out at the same time, once we're done, we'll have everybody say it's always time to go indie now. So starting with you, Deborah, go ahead and tell people where they can find you on the web.
Okay, you can find me at below is my website, deborahpermley.com. And I'm going to say hello to Julie's book next to me. My book is way over on the other end. And you can find me on YouTube. And on my website, I have listed the different YouTube videos that I've been doing for the March of the Writers. So if you want to see that, the ones I've done so far are on a blog right there. And
Awesome.
and I'm all over the socials, of course. Oh, and one more thing. I put the link to Shimmy Mob in the comments. So if you're interested in that, you can find that link there.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much for doing that. Thank you for being here today. And I'm glad that we got the telecommunications figured out. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ao, tell us where we can find you on the web.
Oh, well, pretty much just Google me. Google my name. Type me in Bing, whichever. That's the best way if you want to see all about me and everything. But I'm pretty much all around for the most part. I'm on YouTube, of course. So if you want to watch The Era of or Haunted or March of the Writers, of course, please come to my YouTube channel. There's always something that I'm going to be putting out there that typically, the things that I share are more deep and they're thoughtful. I put book trailers there, short videos and everything like that. So it's a nice community on there as well. I'm on Facebook of course. So my Facebook page is there as well. You can go there if you like. And most of the things that are on my YouTube channel are also on my Facebook page because it turns out it's a different audience. And then I'm also, of course, on Goodreads and stuff if you're interested in my books and everything like that. And so some other social media platforms I'm there as well. Oh, Instagram is another one. So Instagram, I'm pretty active on Instagram. If you like to follow a lot of just the all the little nuances and like personal daily life. Like if you want to meet my animals, my cat Angel, who's really awesome, and the reason why her name is Angel is because we got her as a little kitten when I was writing War Angel. So it was kind of neat, and she's there, and she's the antithesis of her name. She is a devil. And of course, my dogs. I have something called the Daily Duck Report, which is a little mini vlog that shares to my Facebook and my Instagram as a reel. And people have been latching onto it and really liking it because it's literally all it is I'm walking my dogs in the morning to the lake, looking at the sunrise and experiencing the wildlife and the ducks and everything. There's been a lot of interesting things that have happened in that kind of daily diary, which is really what it is. But, you know, because all the way up to just, you know, seeing all these amazing ducks and birds, great blue herons have come, and I've got to see them fly across the lake with wings spread. I've captured them on video. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. A lot of that type of stuff appears in March of the Writers because, you know, it's extraordinary, all the way to watching seeing the plume. Here, let me do my hand there. The plume from the liftoff to the rocket that went up to rescue the stranded astronauts, because I live in the Orlando area, so I can see a lot of that. And it just so happened to go up when I was, you know, doing that particular mini vlog. So
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody. Great to be on the show.
Excellent. Thank you for being here. Jim?
Thank you.
Easiest way to link through to most of the stuff I've got going on at the moment is to go to jamespnettles.com. From there, you can get to authoressentialsworkshops.com, creatingpros.com. You can get the stuff we do on the Continual Network. I am working right now on what our fall schedule of classes are going to be through AE and some other stuff that's going on. I am doing some live workshops at a couple of different events over the next few months and trying to get those scheduled and theoretically published as we're going around. And there's a few other things that are being cooked. And right now I'm in startup hell. So yeah, other than that,
I'm in there.
Awesome. Excellent. Thank you for being here as always, Jim. I want to thank everyone again, all our panelists. You were great. Juliet, thank you for being here. All the comments. Let's see if we have any last comments.
No.
Deborah, yep, we got Deborah is talking. Yep, you have a Discord server. Oh, excellent. Yeah, people love Discord servers. So I am SM Hillman. You can find me at thewickedboys.com. You can find me here on Go Indie Now Network as a host, as an occasional panelist. I host Zero Means You're Dead as soon as I get the last bits of that done. And I also occasionally play or GM on Hit the Dice, which is our role-playing actual play. Thanks, everyone. And all right, everyone, tell everyone what time it is.
It's always
Always
one.
time.
It's always time to go in.
Going now.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.